I don't even know what I'm doing right now.
Oh, camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1. Live stream. Hey everyone, thanks again for joining BQLive. My name is Jerid Hill.
I'm Eric Dean.
And so again, like always, we just want to remind people that at the end of the show, we're going to have a question and answer section. So if you're on our website, BQ.live, in the bottom, hit talk to us, click on the options, put your name in there so that we know who we're talking to. Or if you're on YouTube, just go into the chat and just go ahead and just ask your questions there.
Awesome.
But what I'm pretty excited about, before I get into anything else, what?
Uh-oh, I'm worried.
Why?
I haven't been prepped on this, so who knows?
Prepped how?
I don't know. Every time you do something,
okay,
I'm concerned.
No, nothing bad.
Nothing bad.
So last week, in our show, I talked about how
you went Pokemon hunting.
I went Pokemon hunting, and I caught a Demacho.
Yeah.
An official Demacho.
There is blowing up now. They've made an official Demacho. Now you can buy dolls, all kinds of stuff.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this week
yeah.
I caught another one.
You did.
Now that one was in California, so that was a Californian Demacho. This one's a Floridian.
So you're going to be like the kid that got all of them in America and gets sent around the world?
I don't know. I don't think he got a Demacho. I can guarantee you.
Oh,
that.
he didn't. Yeah. Don't you know how rare those are?
Well, the cool thing though is when we actually I caught it. Our videographer just happened to be standing there.
So convenient.
It was. So why don't you show what we captured?
Yeah.
No! Got him!
What?
It's always at my expense.
He caught it. No, he captured the moment.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
he would happen to be standing right there when it happened. So it was great.
It's hilarious. It is funny.
All right. So anyway, like always, every week we do have a guest a shirt, and this is the shirt. I'm going to tell you what you're going to win, though. You're going to win this awesome tube.
That's a pretty cool tube.
Right. So this tube, but in the tube, we're going to have 50 sheets of parchment paper and a Teflon sheet.
Yes. Awesome.
So we talked last week about Teflon, parchment, craft. I guess I should have probably thrown some craft paper in there. Maybe I'll do 25, 25, and one. Okay. I just have to see if we have extra craft paper. It's so popular.
Yeah.
So
it's awesome. That's it. Everybody buys because of me.
Right. Yeah. So yes, exactly. But anyway, this is the shirt.
That's the shirt.
Basically, all you got to do is tell us where this. What's to say about that?
Yeah, I guess where it's from, where you would see or hear that, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe?
where you'd see or hear it is fine.
Okay.
Yep.
It's Fran.
What?
It says Fran.
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 Yes, red rum.
Yeah, red rum. Yep.
If you're looking in a mirror. Okay, so today's topic is going to be how to start a t-shirt business.
This is like a 4-episode big.
Yeah, we're going to cram it into
be.
one,
Yeah.
possibly. But there's a lot here, and we're probably not going to go over in depth in a lot of areas. But basically,
Just get the gist.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So so anyway, I think what you can grab that real quick.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, because what we have here is we have different types of business setups.
Right. Like if you incorporate that kind of stuff.
Right. So we'll go over that here in just a second. But one of the biggest things that I've seen, in all businesses. I mean, what is it? I'm going to throw a number out there. I think it's something like 75% of all businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Oh, that's probably a good number.
I think, but I'm trying to do that by memory. But either way, even if that's not right, it's still a high percentage.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with because people aren't planning properly.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of it has to do with capital too.
Well, you're not planning properly.
Right.
You're not going to have the capital,
money.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So there's different types of things that you need to plan out. Now, the thing about the t-shirt business, why a t-shirt business? Well, most of the time because everybody seems to believe that t-shirts are simple and easy, and everybody wears one. Almost everybody wears one. And so they're like, well, let's start a t-shirt business.
Yeah, it's a heavily saturated market, though, too.
Right. And so But because printing a shirt, I mean, there's all kinds of methods. We'll talk about a few here today, but there's all kinds of methods of embellishing that garment. But it doesn't necessarily mean you can forego all the business practices.
Right. You still need to, what we're going to talk about here in the beginning, this is pretty much, regardless of the business model or regardless of what you're doing, it's all going to be, I don't care if you're starting a landscaping company, you still need to go through these basic steps, these first few steps we're going to talk about in order to be successful in any business, in any market. It's just the way it is. So,
and so I think the first area, I mean, we talk about, setting up your business. Right. And that could be picking a name. Right. So, I mean, you pick a name, and I mean, in the past I've dealt with, and I know you have too, but you've dealt with things where you've chosen a name that somebody has come against you, and you cease and desist, different things like that. And I know your situation. I think I told you mine, and they're both kind of bogus.
Right.
But
it's too hard to fight it sometimes.
But yeah, is it worth fighting?
Right.
That kind of thing. So I didn't, I didn't do a lot of research in some of the names that I've done early on. But then as I continued on and started other businesses, that kind of thing, I would always make sure I did do a name search.
I would sometimes even start with the domain name.
Yeah.
I would go and see if the domain name that I had in mind for the company was available, and if not, then sometimes I would adjust the company name to fit a domain.
Sure.
That would be good. And sometimes you think you have the greatest idea, best idea for a name, and you go and you find out that the .com, the .net, the .org, the .biz, they're all taken. And it's like you weren't the only one who thought of it. And that can be disheartening, especially if you put a lot of time and effort into developing that name or something prior to actually doing any homework. So definitely want to do your homework before spending money on incorporating a business or buying hosting or anything like that.
Well, case in point, I'll tell you, we had BQ.live, right? We have the domain name, but we did not find that domain name before we came up with BQ.live.
Right.
And so we did BQ.live, and we started searching out BQ.live, and it's not .live.
BQLive.com.
Right, BQLive.com, those kind of things. And we found that, and we're not going to mention the name of the company, you can figure it out yourself. But basically we found they bought pretty much everything.
Yeah, anything associated to it.
Yeah, and so I came across the .live registry.
Works perfectly.
I was like, wow, BQ.live, that's a premium domain name. They wanted $60,000 a year, every year for that domain name. Now,
we don't.
Those numbers were put there to scare you off,
that
kind of stuff. And so we negotiated. We made some good deals, and we got a really
we stole it.
Substantial discount compared to that. But anyway, so if you do your research, that's a good idea, though. I mean, because anytime you can take the name of your company and you can match that up with the website URL perfectly, it works well.
Right. My old shop's name was Threads Online because I couldn't get Threads.com. I had to get Threads-online.com. So when I went to the state, I just made the company Threads Online Incorporated.
Yeah.
So that everything would make sense across, so people would actually look at it that way. I mean, it's probably more a psychological thing for my personal self than it is for the general public, but I've incorporated 5 or 6 businesses.
Sure.
So I'm like a serial entrepreneur. None of them have really, I'm working here. I'm not living on the beach in a mansion. But, I think it was Thomas Edison that said something along the lines of, it only took him one time to learn how to make a light bulb, but 1,000 times how not to make a light bulb. And if you throw enough stuff against the wall, eventually something's going to stick. You can't get discouraged if the first time you try it. I mean, I've owned 3 or 4 clothing lines and a print shop, and you have to keep moving forward. You can't just, if something doesn't go your way, don't just throw your hand up and walk away. Just keep plugging along, because you're going to have everybody and their brother's going to quit. If you keep going at it, you're going to be the lone survivor, and you'll be the one standing left when everybody else bails out. So, and
when you build the foundation properly, right, it's going to strengthen everything you're doing anyway.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be, it's going to be harder to, I don't want to say harder, but it's going to be more solid in every way. And so you can stand on that,
Absolutely.
right?
It's very important.
Right. And you get all these frustrations against you when you don't do the things that you need to do
Right.
to make sure that everything is formed properly.
And we're going to talk about a lot of those things.
Yeah, and so, again, you just go to, it really can start as simple as a business name, a business idea, if it's a t-shirt company, what have you, that could incorporate into, what kind of decoration you're going to do, if you're going to do some kind of bling, you can incorporate something like that. It really depends on what you're after. But even then, there's still, once you do that, there's still some types of structures that you want to build your business as. So what we have is a list of different business structures that, you may or may not have heard of. And if you don't have any of these, you've never heard of these, and you're not going by any of these, then chances are you're probably not legitimate, and you got to make sure that you do this.
You need to take a few steps back.
Right.
You're putting the cart in front of the horse. You need to define some things before you start promoting and pushing and selling. Get yourself, like you said, build that foundation first. Start from the bottom and work your way up.
Right. And so Eric found this list. It's actually, and don't worry about we'll put the link or a PDF or something if possible up on BQ.live. But basically what this is for is a business type comparison table, and it shows you benefits of every type of business. My first companies I built were sole proprietorship. I think you said you did S Corp.
Well, the very first company I ever incorporated was an LLC, and then I went to my accountant, and my accountant asked me to restructure the company as an S Corp. That's what he preferred. He had some reasons. That was 15 years ago, and I don't remember exactly why. Some things about it's more of a service. LLCs are more for service-oriented type businesses, where S Corps are more for selling a product or something like that. It was something along those lines. So I've always stuck with S Corps. It's very simple, easy to use, especially if you use QuickBooks or whatever. Yeah. It's simple, and it gives you some protection more than, like you say, you were a sole proprietor to begin with.
And to begin with.
Yeah, and that doesn't give you a whole lot of protection as far as somebody
there's
coming after you.
Absolutely no protection, because
you are the company.
Personal possessions are all
everything
part of
is
that
you.
too. Yeah.
So. But if you're just doing, like, if you're a consultant, or you're something like that, where you're not selling a product, you don't have to worry about hindering anybody's job or something that could fail that you could be sued over. Sole proprietor might work for you, So.
And I'd also recommend, Eric mentioned it, he talked about, he spoke with his accountant.
Yeah.
I think you really do have to have an accountant. You really have to have a lawyer. You don't have to have them, obviously, on a full-time staff.
Yeah, don't give them on retainer.
No,
just talk to them.
I would definitely recommend that, because it depends on what you're doing. There's liabilities there. There's different things, and they're both, their professions are really designed to protect you.
Right.
So I would definitely make sure that you, hire a very good attorney as well as an accountant.
And if you already are having an accountant do your books or your tax at the end of the year, they'll probably consult with you for free about this, because it'll make their job easier if it's set up the way that they like things structured for what's best for. They know better than we do. We know t-shirts. We're not accountants. We're not lawyers. So we're just giving you the gist.
And if you're not able to actually afford these, then maybe that's part of the problem, is not having the proper preparation for all this. So there's like business plans, right? So even before you hire an attorney or an accountant, I think if you talk to them ahead of time to try to find out, how you want to, set up your business structure, that's going to be beneficial. But you can put a business plan together before you approach anybody.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a wise thing. And a lot of times people don't do business.
I know, they think that they can just swing it, and really, I don't think you should ever do that. I think that you really need to put down on paper, your startup expenses, your budget, your marketing plan, what your sales expectations are. If Jerid and I were going in business together, I would want to have an executive role. What is your executive position in the company? What is my role in the company? And I want that on paper, so everybody knows where they stand. Investors know where you stand. If you're going to banks, they understand. Even if you're not going to invest, if you're self-funding everything, it's still a good idea to put everything on paper, just so you can make sure that you're not missing anything. And you can get free business plans online to reference and stuff. But to have all that and actually crunch the numbers, just like with our sales, the pricing video, the very first video, running your numbers through that will give you a better idea of what your expenses are going to be. Just shooting in the dark isn't going to do you any good. You're going to end up losing money because, as we showed, in some circumstances, you need to charge $20 a shirt. And you start charging $5 a shirt because, oh, I'm making $4 a shirt. I don't need anything. But you've forgotten about everything else that's associated to that. You're not going to be successful. So putting everything on paper first and really being diligent about the roles and what you plan on doing will definitely help you feel. You'll just have a better feel for the company when you start moving forward, and you won't have to play in these guessing games. You've already got a system in place, a plan in place, and I think it's very, very essential to all business models, regardless of what you're doing. You really should sit down, even just chicken scratches on a notepad at the bar. Something, just put something on paper so you know what you're talking about and are able to
build off of
and build, exactly, and grow. And let people you trust and know in on it a little bit. Hey guys, are you seeing anything that you need a second set of eyes sometimes? Am I missing something here? Oh, you forgot about your phone costs. You forgot about hosting. Oh, I got to put that in. My P&L now is going to be affected by that. So those little things can turn into huge problems once you get going with your business. If you don't have systems in place, you can fail very easily.
Well, and it's called a business plan,
right?
It's planning a business, and so if you build your business plan first before you come up with anything else, that actually might give you an indication of what direction to take anyway when it comes to the business models, the structures, and so forth. So some of these are what we have listed here, and again, we can put this out there for you. And this was off of bizfilings.com, right? Yeah. So you can go out there right now and find it yourself.
Yeah, I just Googled.
And that's all we did, was just Googled it real quick.
One thing I want to interrupt beforehand, though, is if you need actual help, and you can get free help from the SBA and from SCORE, which is the what is it? I wrote it down. It's the Service Corps of Retired Executives. And what they'll do is they'll look at your business model and your plan and kind of give you.
Well, they're going to want a business plan anyway.
Well, yes. Well, even still, they can at least help guide you
in that.
If you don't have any clue at all how to create a business plan, they can at least give you some templates and say, here's what you need to do, and then go back with them. And they'll evaluate everything and see if they feel as though, and it's not make or break for you, and they might not agree with what you do. They might not know anything about T-shirts, but at least they'll understand that, hey, you're 2 + 2 and your numbers are all making sense here, or they're not. Or it's just a good way to get a non-biased third-party opinion on your plan.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean,
those are free services.
Yes, absolutely. The SBA and SCORE, they're connected to each other. So just check out your local SBA office, and they'll be more than willing to help you. The SBA isn't like they used to be. They don't give loans or anything like that anymore. It's more just an informational, ability or office to be able to help you with. But it's good. I mean, I've gone to SBA 3 or 4 times just to make sure that before I go to the bank and ask for $1 million loan, does everything look legitimate first?
Yeah, you're selling it. You're selling your idea, your business, and even after you've been in business for say 10 years. And you're still doing your business plans. I mean, there's goal structures and stuff like that. You can also present where you've been, where you are, and where you're projected to be. So again, it's a plan.
I mean, I've thought that I was going to sell a product for price A, and I put the business plan together to realize I was way off on what I could afford to sell it for. I had to change my pricing scheme because of all these expenses that I didn't think about until I started writing them down.
Right.
And it's like, oh wow, it's changed everything.
Yeah. And like Eric mentioned about we have that calculator that it's not a wherewithal, but it does, like in the DTG realm, but there's expenses that you can put on there. Like he's putting different ideas down on where your expenses are. And that's going to obviously affect your overhead, which is going to affect what price you have to sell your product for. So again, we're trying to put all this stuff together in progression so that at any time somebody can come out, take a look at what we're offering, at least in free advice. And again, we're not lawyers or anything like that, but what we're saying here is substantiated by what's already in the industry. So, but anyway, just real quick, we'll just name them. There's sole proprietorship and general partnership. Both of those pretty much have no protection.
Right.
It's all you.
Technically speaking, as soon as
you can lose your house.
Absolutely.
Right? You can lose whatever.
Your car, anything that you own that's an asset they can take. If you default on something and you're not incorporated, everything that you own, your assets are completely liable. And technically speaking, the government is.
I had no assets.
Right. I don't.
When I started.
But I mean, if you paid
acquired some over, but I didn't take out.
You pay you pay off your printer, you pay off your heat presses. That's all now company asset. That's personal asset.
But I have no loans. But what happens is
Well, if you were to get sued.
if you're going to get sued now.
Right.
So it's not only necessarily only the financial end of the loans and payback, that kind of stuff. There's other areas too. If it could be you getting in a car accident.
Oh yeah.
Right, and they come after you. Well, your business is not protected.
Right.
You're
their assets of the company is now liable.
Yeah.
I mean, the feds, or the IRS, or whatever you want to say, if you sell a product on Etsy, on Craigslist, you have now assumed a sole proprietorship business level, whatever type. So regardless of if you haven't physically filled out the paperwork with the state or with this federal government, they don't care. As soon as you have engaged in a retail,
you can get trouble
or wholesale,
later on.
Oh yeah, of course, for taxes
but they don't care. You're right.
They will come after you if they have to as a sole proprietor if you've sold anything retail or wholesale. It doesn't matter.
If you're not documented.
Right. If you don't already have something in place, you default to a sole proprietor, which is in most cases is not a good business model to be under, especially when you're dealing with what we're dealing with here, when you have potentially tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars wrapped up in equipment and you're producing tens if not millions of dollars worth of garments and customer base to deal with, and you screw up somebody's order or something happens, and they want to come after you, they're not going to be able to take your car, they're not going to be able to take your house, they're going to only be able to take what the company's assets are and gives you a little bit more protection.
So then, and we won't need to go into all this because again, there's a lot to it.
Oh, yeah,
but there's a C corporation, S corporation, LLC, which is limited liability company, limited partnership, and limited liability partnership.
Right.
So again, we don't need to go through all of that. The key point though is, as we've already mentioned, if you go to a sole proprietorship or a general partnership, there's no protection for you personally.
Right.
So if you're really going to do it, it's better to move up the ladder,
incorporate,
and do at least one of the others depending on what your business structure, your business plan shows, and what your accountant or attorney might suggest.
And some of it's also based on income level. So you can, if you're an S corp, let's say, S corp has a limit on how many employees you're allowed to have and be still registered as an S corp, and also how much money you're able to bring in revenue before you become a C corp, and they'll automatically change your designation once you tap out of that. But there's more. Every different type of a C corp to an S corp to an LLC have different filing requirements. They have different. They have minutes they have to have meetings, whatever. There's a lot of different things. So it's just a matter of figuring out what's going to work best for you. And again, like you said, we've said it 100 times. Talk to a professional about what the best way to set your company is for their needs and for your state too, because every state's a little bit different. Even though this is all federal stuff, and your state tax ID number and federal tax ID number are two completely different entities, but they still have to jive. So just another good place to go is to your Secretary of State's office. Mm-hmm. That's typically where you file the paperwork with your state to incorporate or to create a business within the state to get a retail tax ID number to be able to collect sales tax. And they'll help you. They'll definitely guide you the right way, because they don't want to call you later because you didn't fill out the right form. So they'll help you out. There's plenty of help available. So
and every state's going to be different,
Absolutely.
And you're going to have different terminologies for very similar things. So I have a company here that I had to file a fictitious name for because I was getting paid through somebody else writing checks under what my website was called. And the company's name wasn't addressed as that, so I had to do a fictitious filing, then bring in, but it's underneath that umbrella company. Yeah. So that way, and then I take it to the bank, and then I have to submit them. They actually pull up the information in the state registry, and they're like, okay, that's legit. Let's go ahead and add that to the name. So if anybody ever write you a check in that name again, you're covered.
Right.
And again, it's a lot of red tape here and there, but it is designed to protect the consumer, so you're not defrauding someone, and it's going to protect you too.
Absolutely.
And so, what about the business plan? You mentioned a lot of different areas which are key. Is there anything in there that you really have seen more than anything that is really? You really got to have this fine-tuned. Budget. Okay, there you go.
Budget. I mean, you have to know what you're spending and what you're bringing in.
Right.
I mean, all businesses work under a budget. I mean, you have a home budget even. I mean, you know how much money you're bringing in. You know how much your rent is, your mortgage, your car payment, your insurance, all this stuff. And you know that you have to hit X amount of dollars per month to be able to pay your expenses. That exact same mentality has to be put back into the business. And it's not the same as a house because you have a lot more expenses and taxes and things like that that you don't take into consideration like it is when your home finances. So I think a budget is paramount to success.
Yeah.
It's got to be, that's way more important than your marketing plan. If you don't know how much you're bringing in or how much you're spending, it means nothing. It's all for naught. So.
Well, and you go back to what's the point of all the business plan anyway, right? You're structuring, you're building, you're adding on, and so forth. So if you don't have that budget right, and you're selling and you're doing this and you're doing that, and all of a sudden one of your main pieces of equipment goes out, and you didn't account for that,
Right.
then okay, well, let's go ahead and look at a loan. All right, so let's think about a loan. But if your business plan isn't structured properly, who are you going to give that business plan to?
Right.
They're going to see those numbers. They're
You
going to
spit out a
see-
P&L and it's not good.
Yeah, and they're like, "What's a P&L?"
Right.
Right? You know, profit and loss. I mean, they're like, "What is that? I have no idea." I mean, so that's what I'm saying. All of that needs to be structured, and that's kind of why we're really spending a lot of time right now on this section. Because again, if the very foundation of your company is not solid, it's about to fall, and
Yeah.
it will eventually.
Nothing
fall.
else matters.
Right, and it's not. I'm not. We can't guarantee that if you do all this, you know, you dot your I's, cross your T, and everything's perfect, that you're gonna be successful at it.
Right.
But what we're saying is, if you don't do all this, you have a higher probability that you're gonna fail early on.
Absolutely.
Right, and I think a lot of times, like if you can get past that 5-year hurdle, right, that's talked about in business. Typically, if you can get past that, you're going to do well. But it's hard to get to that point
Absolutely.
if you're not structured properly.
Even being structured properly doesn't guarantee success.
No, absolutely not. But it at least takes a lot of the pressures off.
Absolutely
You
does.
know the numbers, you know this,
Right.
you know that, you have goals, right? We don't need to go into the whole goals, you know,
Right.
I mean. hey,
Everybody's
we're gonna-
goals are different.
Yeah. We don't need all that because that's, you know, that's reality. But at this stage, you know, as long as you get the basics down of the actual structure, like you said, you have a better chance of going beyond. And again, this is just a T-shirt company, but really it's more than that.
It applies
it's
to
a business,
anything.
right?
Says anything. I don't care if you're have a lemonade stand.
Right.
You still got to know what it costs for you to be able to operate that lemonade stand and how to make money off of
Right.
it.
And one of the things too is, what's the whole point of doing your own business anyway, right? I mean,
I'm in it to make money.
well, I
independence.
did, you know, when I first started my business, I started a printing company in 1998. Now, I had already been doing some sales for a friend of mine in 96 to 98. And in 1998, I just started my own. And my idea in all of that was to be able to stay home with my family more. It doesn't work that way.
You put more hours in.
There's more hours in.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
all of a sudden I'm working 80 plus hours a week, and
Yeah.
that is not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I remember one time working 72 hours straight,
Oh, my.
no sleep, nothing, because I had so much work and I couldn't get it all done.
That's a good problem and a bad problem. to
It's a
have.
good problem, bad problem.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, it was, you know, my idea of what business was so that I don't have to work as much.
Right, it's totally
Now,
opposite.
throughout the years, as I started to fine tune that, I realized, oh, I can actually back off. I've always worked a lot, but I just kind of back off a little bit on some of that. And then, so it got to the point where I was able to, you know, actually take a little extra time off and spend more time with my family. But
Well, your shop was pretty close to your house too, so
well,
which made it nice.
eventually it did become that way. Eventually I ended up moving right next to my shop,
Yeah, that
and
makes
literally I timed my how much time it took to get to work walking, even in the snow when I lived in Ohio, and it was 26 seconds. so it was nice.
So it's
It was-
nice if you
but
come home
before
for
that, it wasn't
lunch.
like that. Well, nor my wife and my kids would
would come
come
over.
up
Right.
and bring me lunch.
Right.
You know,
So you
whereas
definitely-
before it wasn't like that. I mean, my house was far enough away from my shop that I didn't have that advantage. But I would take my family with me
That's always cool.
sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so you got to have an idea of why you want to be in the business, and you have to be determined. And you know, is it just because you want to make a buck? Okay, if that's what motivates you, sure. Who can I say?
You have to have
how
a
can
passion,
I say?
though.
But you have to have a passion, I think,
Yeah.
of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Whether it's printing a shirt or not is irrelevant.
Right.
If your passion is to drive that business,
Right.
then you can drive it.
Yeah.
You know, so but you got to take it seriously, and that's why we say, you know, whatever you start, don't stop. Just keep going, and if you get the business plan ahead of time and you get it worked out, I think, like I said, we've already said it before, you're going to be a lot more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a build it and they will come. There's no business like that.
No.
You have to have the structure in place first. I mean, even if you was lucky enough to get a Starbucks or something, in which they don't franchise it, unfortunately. But if they did, I mean, that's basically, you can see the lines going around the corner. But if they don't have a business plan in place, then they don't know when to reorder, what they're selling, what they're doing, what their payroll taxes. I mean, there's so many variables that they have to have in place before they can open the door. Even an established company, I guarantee you, when they enter a new city, they put a business plan together for that city, for the demographics, and for their budget. I guarantee it, and because they have to.
Yeah.
They can't. It's what happens here is not the same that happens in Louisville. It's not the same that's going to happen out in Colorado. It's a completely different market, different demographic, different cost, everything. So they have to adjust the business model and the business plan accordingly. And these people do billions of dollars in
Sure.
revenue, you know, and they still know that they have to do that. So our little Pilly T-shirt businesses definitely have to have it.
Right.
You know. So and what does this get you though? Once you are incorporated, once you've set up your business, what does this now allow us to be able to do? You know, and that's into our next step is being able to now deal with the vendors and stuff.
Right.
You know.
Well, so yeah, he's mentioning vendors. Now, no matter what we're talking about here, if you're talking about starting a T-shirt shop, the very first vendor you're going to need is a T-shirt company, right?
In theory, yeah.
Now, if you're going to go into DTG, it's actually important that you have a very good quality shirt. And this guy right here had done a really cool, awesome video. And actually, we're going to show it right. We're not going to show the whole video because it is a little lengthy, but we'll point you to it later. But this video here is pretty cool, and he goes into talking about what good what are the good shirts to use. Stay away from this, what have you. So let's go ahead and roll a little bit of that.
Son of a I don't me mother me. What was the line?
I think you grabbed the wrong clip.
Oh yeah. That was our what was that? The bloopers reel.
That was the bloopers reel.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, I think that was the
That's
wrong
funny.
clip.
I'm glad we
but-
bleeped a lot of those out because
Yeah.
it was pretty vulgar. That was like 3 days of shooting to get that. That was the first video I'd ever done. Things have gotten a lot better now.
But the real video is on our site. If you go to BQ.live, you can click on the YouTube link on the top, or just go right to BelQuette.com/YouTube.
There it is.
And it'll take you right to our playlist. You'll find it in there. But
It's a good video, it really is.
it's like 5-6 minutes long,
Yeah,
so
we don't
we kind of didn't want to play the whole thing. So, and I guess he grabbed the wrong clip anyway.
I'm sure it was all accidental. Of course, just like the getting beamed in the head with a paper ball as a Pokemon. It's all
Yeah,
good.
that's
It's always
okay.
at my expense. It's always
No. All right, so so if we go back to vendors, shirts, everybody wants to, when I first got in all this, back in the day, I could get a white T-shirt for 75 cents.
Yeah.
Right. And,
Those days are
And
long
I know there's probably people talking or watching going, back in my day, I did it for 10 cents a shirt. Okay.
I was selling
You
print
beat
shirts for
me.
75 cents a piece.
But 75 cents a shirt, that was still a good deal. Dark garments were, $1.50, $1.60, something like that. I can't remember, but it was not much. But even now, you can still get a decent, the shirts that we like to use,
Yeah.
they're $3 a piece, and that's for black, white, red, green, doesn't matter. They're all like $3 a piece.
Yeah, like 280 or something. I mean,
Yeah,
it depends on
and-
obviously your volume.
And they work well. So
They're awesome.
but you do need to find a shirt vendor. I guess there's been a lot of mergers over the
Yeah,
years
yeah.
and this and that, but
Your big ones.
Alpha Broder, Sanmar, yeah, there's T-Shirt City or TSC Apparel they call them now.
Heritage Sportwear now, which was Virginia Tees.
There's a One Stop out of Michigan.
S&S Activewear.
Yeah. So there's a lot, and so we could just like keep going, but the reality is what you really want to do is you want to contact them, talk to them direct. Now, when I first got involved in screen printing, the guy I had bought it was brand new equipment, and he was a dealer. And the company I bought from, he says, "Oh, you need to call Broder Brothers," which is now Alpha Broder, right? So you need to call Broder Brothers, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you case pricing on everything. So what case pricing is, if you don't know, is you buy one shirt, you buy a case of shirts. It's the same price per piece,
Right.
and it's usually the lowest price. Unless you get into special programs because of volume. Then
You buy 10,000 shirts at once, they're going to give you a better deal than case
Yeah,
pricing.
I mean, if it's consistency,
Yeah.
they'll even give you better deals.
And sometimes they'll price match too. If you see Sanmar has an Anvil shirt that you want for $1 more than Bodek or Alpha Broder, whatever you want to call them now, but Alpha Broder is your preferred vendor, call them
Right.
and let them know, hey, look, guys, I mean, I can buy it from Sanmar for $1 less, and I'm buying 3,000 shirts. That's $3,000. You
Yep.
know, you want me to take it there? And they'll usually work, especially if you have a good relationship with your sales rep. You know, build that relationship up because it's good. So, I mean,
Well, that's kind of what I had done up front. I had contacted Broder, talked to them. They said, "Oh, so and so, blah blah blah. Okay, we'll give you case pricing, right?" And then I called up their competitor and I said, "Hey, I just got connected with Broder Brothers. I'm doing case pricing. Will you match that?" And they say yes. So I would actually immediately got set up with 3 different vendors, and they're all giving me case pricing. And that was always for life. Today, I can still buy shirts from Alpha Broder for sure, but others that I had done that with, and I could still get case pricing. And to the point where some of them are a little better than case pricing too, depending on the program.
I think it's always good to have an account set up with multiple t-shirt vendors because there's times where Sanmar might be out of red mediums, but Alpha has 1,000 red mediums.
Right.
So you need to be able to cross shop between the two, especially a lot of them carry the same product lines. There's, some of them have some unique exclusive deals with like American Apparel or some of these other companies that are more fashion-oriented companies. The S&S to me is much more of a fashion-oriented distributor than Sanmar is.
Mm-hmm.
So just depending on what you're looking for, you might try all the different. And again, like Alpha Broder here, they have a location in Orlando, so we get next day shipping for free.
They used to have one in St. Pete.
Wow.
And we go pick it up the same day.
That's always nice.
But that's actually a good point, having multiple locations. Now, another thing, and I'm not necessarily trying to advocate one or the over another,
no, definitely not.
but Alpha Broder, because it is so close to us, we do tend to buy a lot from them. And a nice program they have, and look at all their shipping programs. A nice program that Alpha has and they offer is FedEx's Flex.
Right.
Right. I think they call it Flex.
Flex shipping. Yeah.
Yeah, Flex shipping. And what they do is they said, okay, if you buy at least $35 worth of shirts or whatever products from us, you can choose the FedEx Flex, and they'll ship to your the closest FedEx location to you. It could be
The Kinko's or whatever.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, FedEx store.
For free.
Right. That's awesome.
And that's incredible. And if it's less than $35, I think it's $4 shipping.
Yeah, it's still really cheap.
$3.99.
Yeah.
And you get it the next day if we're ordering out of
Orlando office.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Now, if they're not in Orlando, it might be in Georgia. Now it's a 2-day ship time.
But still.
But you have to go pick it up.
Right.
But we have one literally, 2 blocks from us here.
Right, so it's no big deal.
We don't typically, we have one there closer to where I live. I've got one,
there's one about me too.
4 blocks from me. So they're located all over the place. So
Definitely.
you kind of have to kind of weigh the differences between your vendors and try to determine, what are their programs, because they're all trying to compete for your business. So they're all going to begin. They have offered a lot of different programs throughout the years to try to bring you in, right? And so some programs may be better than others, and so we don't need to go into all those. Again, just do a little bit of research on it.
Yeah. Hook up with multiple vendors, though, guys. Don't stick with just one.
Right.
Don't stick with the one. This doesn't cost you anything to set up an account with them. So you might as well just send them your tax ID number and get an account set up with them so that you can cross shop your distributors.
Right. So we also have, like, if you're not an artist, almost all t-shirt businesses that I know need some kind of art service.
Right.
I'm gonna reach out there. I'm gonna say all that I know need some type of art service, whether you're subbing it out or you're doing it yourself or doing it in house.
Right.
And I remember years ago, somebody told me, and he had incredible artwork, and he told me that, you know, artwork sells, but incredible artwork sells even more. and we would see his really incredible art, and we would see all of a sudden it was just sold so much better than just you can take a nice piece of art and then you can take it over the top and people are just wowed by it. And so I've experienced that myself, and I used to do that a lot if I was printing t-shirts. So for example, I had this guy come in, and I was using a direct-to-garment printer, the Mod 1, and he came in, and I also screen printed, and he wanted 12 shirts, right? I just want 12 shirts, and I just want names and numbers on the back. Actually, I think they were just numbers. They weren't even names, and they were like white shirts.
Okay.
I only want to pay like $5 a piece for them. They're cheap. Okay, well, normally I would just, you know, say, okay, well, let's just do that. Well, I said, well, I'm going to jazz this up a bit. And I made these numbers with flames. I did all kinds of cool stuff. It's on a white shirt.
Right. Then
so I printed. I didn't get approval or nothing. I just said, all right, I'm going to do it. And I'll take the liberty of doing it. And I should probably get approval. But I'm like, no, I'm not going to get approval. And I went ahead and printed it on the mod. And he came in and he was floored. And I charged him, I think it was $6. And I charged him $6 a piece. Took $72. It didn't take me that long to print because there was no white ink. And so what we ended up doing was after all that had happened, he came in, he saw me, loved them, and he decided he wanted to buy even more.
Awesome.
You know,
That's great.
So that was pretty cool.
Now I've done that and had the exact opposite thing happen to me, where I went in and I thought I'd be cool and I would spice up a customer's image that they sent me, and they were not happy about it.
Well,
they wanted
these were my images.
Oh,
to begin. They were just numbers.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, you're right, and so you may not necessarily want.
At that point, I said I'm
to
never
adapt
altering
somebody's
anybody's
artwork.
Yeah.
That's a little different, and I would probably steer clear of that.
I from that on point, I mean, I just was trying to I added like a drop shadow or something just to give it just a little bit more pop off the shirt because it was pretty boring.
Well, I would
Bad
take
idea.
people's artwork, especially in screen printing, because in screen printing we had to make separations, you know,
Sure.
and so forth. So I would take people's artwork in screen printing, and then I would create my own separations, you know, do all that. But I would redraw it and clean it up, make it nice. But you couldn't tell that it was because there was no difference to it other than it was better quality.
Right. Okay.
Right. And I would vectorize it and so forth. So again, you know, there are different art services out there.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you can. I mean, there's companies overseas that will do vectorization for $5.
Yeah, Fiverr, I think.
Fiverr's everywhere, U.S. based as well. But no, like it might be $15 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's an over a lot of overseas.
It's reasonable now for sure.
You know, because $15 to them is a lot. Is a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so. So yeah, there's all kinds of services out there that can clean up your artwork, redraw it, do all kinds of stuff. Or if you're trying to do a lot of clip art, there are clip art packages you can buy, not just basic clip art, because you can get those at a copy center,
right.
Or Staples, Office Max,
right, just a CD and stuff
Office
on
Depot.
it.
Yeah. That's kind of not the right artwork, I don't
Right.
think. You can do clip art that way, but we're talking more specific to this field.
Like from Action Illustrated or like Great Dane type of stuff,
Right.
like those types of vendors.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And I think that was the Elephant.
Elephant Print. I can't remember what the name of their company.
Elephant Prints or
Those
something
guys
like
are
that.
awesome.
There's-
Their screen prints are amazing.
You're going to pay for the artwork. So even if you're not going to hire an artist and you want to pay for artwork, you can do that. I think Advanced T-shirts.com is another one. He's got his own packages. So there's a lot of really nice artwork packages out there. But you need to learn how to manipulate those if you're not going to hire an artist.
I mean, I use Shutterstock and I use Graphic Stock all the time. Where I am not an artist. I can design, but I can't draw. I can barely write my name.
That's
But
true.
it is.
I've seen it.
You're right. But I mean, I can take an image that somebody says, okay, well, I want to do a baseball logo. Okay, well, I can't physically draw a baseball bat and a glove, but I can go online and I can download those vectors or those images, and then I can manipulate, change the colors, tweak them
Right.
to where it's a unique design for my customer.
Right.
And before I'm building a design logo, business logo for like an electrician or something like that, I'll get online and I'll kind of see what other people are doing, get some ideas, go onto the graphic sites and download several different variables of things and mix and match and make my own logo from that. And you have to. I mean, you've even talked about the fact that when you were in art school, you always wanted to try to do everything freehand, and your art teacher told you trace it. There's no reason to waste the time. If it's already there, use it to your advantage. And that's the same thing. I don't have any qualms about going online and using artwork that I'm paying for and manipulating it for my purposes and my needs. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Once you understand time management and how time really is money. We hear the cliche, right? But when you really experience it and understand it and know it, it changes the way, you become more efficient, so it changes the way you operate in some regards.
Absolutely.
So you really need to, for me, I learned it. Hey, you know what? If I can do it in half the time and charge the same price, I'm making double per hour compared to my competitors.
Right. So why fight it?
Right. So why fight it? I agree. We can go into the buy your art packages, put it together. Which I think one last point on that is, you're going to need some kind of software package.
Of course,
and again, we're not advocating one or another. There's CorelDRAW. There's Adobe.
GIMP.
There's the one I showed a couple weeks ago. It's coming up here soon. There's all different things. We actually use Adobe packages here. They can get quite expensive for a corporation because there's so many of us here. But Adobe's pretty good because you can do in the cloud now, and you can get for usually $30 a month for single users. I think you get pretty much download all $30 to $50 a month depending on what you're doing. You can download all of their software
whole
packages
suite or whatever.
every month and updates. So almost all. Not all, but almost all.
What we're going to need, though. I mean, your
everything
Illustrator and
you're
your
gonna
Photoshop's all there
need.
that we need in our industry.
Right. Absolutely, stuff we're doing here in this
Right.
live videos or
Right.
not so much live video here, but like in our quick tip videos and all the other stuff. We use Adobe products that
Right.
we pay for that service, and I use Illustrator and Photoshop. We use
Daily, we use
daily, absolutely.
Daily.
So you're still going to need, and it's economical because you can buy an Adobe Photoshop product for $800-900 or more, depending on what you're buying. Whereas you can do this in the cloud, and you just pay a small fee,
And it's constantly updated.
and it's constantly
Yeah.
updated. So
You have to have something, though. The point
Yeah.
is that you have to have something. And even if you're not an expert in Photoshop or Corel or whatever,
Right.
get on YouTube. There's a lot of good tutorials out there. Some of them are better than others, but at least if you get into a specific situation that you need to know how to do something, most likely somebody else has been in your shoes, and there's going to be a tutorial online to at least walk you through how to do it, and maybe you'll remember next time you do it. But I mean, that's how I learned Photoshop. I'm completely self-taught, and I'm by no means good. I can hack my way through it pretty decently, but I've watched a lot of videos on how to do certain effects and stuff I see.
Yeah, and so as you're learning, what you want to do is you might hire an artist, right? An outside service, maybe not on staff, but an outside service to do your art, and all the while you're dabbling and practicing, with the art and trying to figure out how to use the tools. And for me, I did a lot. How I was taught Photoshop was self-taught. When I first learned Photoshop, I believe I'm pretty sure it was Photoshop 1.0.
Wow.
It was a long time ago. I'm pretty sure it was 1.0. And back then it was completely different than it is today. But as I progressed in graphics and so forth, I would enter contests, and you won nothing.
Right.
It was recognition. It was
Right.
all. I never won. I never won. But I learned how to use Photoshop, how to do that. And it's usually like putting an eye right there in the center of your forehead. So now you got 3 eyes.
Right.
Turning somebody's skin green.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of that just in competitions and with a little bit of free time here and there. So now maybe you don't want to do that, that's fine, but at least learn it as you go.
Was just that picture we saw on the Facebook group, on the DTG owners group of that Porsche?
Oh yeah,
that was amazing.
Yeah,
that
looked
guy
like
had
a
some
photograph.
skills.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a guy or girl, whatever, but whoever that was, I don't think it was the person who posted it, was the artist, but that artist was amazing. If you did not know graphics and you did not know what you were looking at, I think an average citizen would not be able to detect the two apart. I mean, it was that good. Now, I don't have those kind of skills. You probably do, but I don't.
I've dabbled in it, and I've done cars and stuff, but to that degree, I never did. And
See,
it looked literally like a photograph.
Now,
and I could see certain areas of it where I knew it wasn't a photo.
Yeah.
But I know what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
But literally, the average person who has no background in art or anything, yeah, they saw it. It's just amazing.
Now, I've worked with artists in the past too, and this kind of goes back to the same thing again. Is I've worked with artists to develop an image or a logo, and then I've been the person that actually did like an InDesign, where I used their image to create a brochure, create the flyers, create the T-shirts from their artwork. So I'm taking what they've done and I'm expanding on that, So I'm not just stuck with just their one design or whatever. And most designers or artists will understand that if you let them know exactly what your intentions are with the image.
Right.
You own it. I paid for it. It's my art now.
Right.
Even though you're the artist, I own it. It's my art. So that's where they can't reproduce that art either for you. Just that's kind of a whole other topic with the copyright thing and trademarking and all that. But if you pay somebody a service to design a company logo for you and you've paid for that, you own that artwork.
Well, you need to have contracts too, though.
Oh yeah.
Every company may be different in theory, and
Of course.
typically that is true.
Right, in hindsight,
but
there's
if
always,
someone has it in a contract and the fine
they're
print,
licensing it to you or something.
right, you got to be careful in
Right,
that too,
right.
though. But you are right for the most part. That's if it's just a mutual agreement, you and me. Hey, can you do this for me? I'll give you $50. $50? Are you insane? No, I'm a 500. Okay, 500. That kind of thing. Then typically that's the handshake.
But see, now what I've done in the past is I designed a logo for a company. They came into my print shop. They wanted a couple dozen shirts. They didn't have a logo. Said, I'll design your logo for you for free, as long as you're using me to print your shirts. They decided that after I printed their first run of shirts, they wanted to have another company print their shirts for me and ask me for the artwork. I told them no.
Yeah.
You didn't pay me to design your artwork. You paid me to print your shirts for you. I took it upon myself because all you had was your name and a phone number to create a logo for you. If you want to use that logo somewhere else, you're gonna have to pay me for the labor services, the artwork services, $500, or whatever the case was, whatever had in it. And sometimes they'd be like, okay, never mind. They'd come back to me to have me do their print work instead of going somewhere else. Or otherwise, they'd pay. And if they want to, if it's for an embroidery or something like that, then yeah, maybe I'll work with the embroidery company so they can digitize it. But I am not going to just give that artwork away without some type of compensation of some sort for it. So,
well, I think we're gonna do this at least as a two-part
yeah, I think we're going to
episode because it's already gotten pretty late. But Eric just said something that reminded me of a scenario that I was involved in my company, and I think one thing you really need to understand is when you do any kind of work for anybody, you need to really spell out for them what that entails.
What they get for their
for their money. And
yeah.
I'm talking post it on the wall, put it anywhere you can so they can see it. And I'll tell you why. So I had this, I didn't ever do embroidery myself, but I had a company that I would service out digitizing for the embroidery. And so, and if you don't know what that means, it's okay, look it up. But anyway, what I would do was, the lady came in and we were talking. She wanted a new logo.
Okay.
Okay, great. And there's a digitizing fee for the logos, right? So there's a new logo, and this is kind of early on. And I have prices for all my logos, but I didn't really discuss all that with her up front. And so I went in and I went down the line, and it was such a rush thing, right? So, I kind of got detracted from my normal ebb and flow. So anyway, I ended up having designing the logo with several revisions. She liked it. We got it digitized. I charged her the digitizing fee. I went to and got the embroidery and everything done, and went to bill her for everything, and she was livid because she says, "Oh, I thought the logo design was part of the part of the service, the digitizing.
Right.
No,
No.
digitizing is a completely separate
Yeah.
service. But I did not spell
didn't
it out,
itemize it out
well
beforehand?
enough for her. Even though I had the information here and there, it wasn't in her face. I didn't go up front with her and say, hey, look, this is the way it all is. And that was hindsight, right? And I learned from that. And so I no longer had, had done it that way. So I printed big posters because I had large format too. I printed big posters, all my logo, pricing, everything, threw it on the wall behind my desk. They came in, sat down at the desk with me. Oh, what, you want that? Okay, well, this is the price.
Right.
And so I would definitely make sure you spell out, you want to do art approvals, you want, make sure you sign off on artwork.
In our industry, that's huge.
Absolutely, because
Huge.
I've had it where they've signed off on it and there has been misspellings and they signed off on it. I still helped them.
Now you saw it. caught
Right.
it.
Well, no, after it was printed.
Oh.
And by every legal term, I was in the
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
But the scenario, and again, every scenario is going to be different.
Sure.
So,
Save face a little bit. And
but anyway, so like I said, we knew that we would run a little long. I didn't suspect we were going to get all this done in one show anyway, and maybe 2 shows, maybe 3, but I think we might be able to do it in 2.
I think so too. We got a couple more topics that we'll hit.
Right, and so
next
some
week.
of your questions, we're still going to go ahead and answer some questions. I'm not sure how many we have. Looks like we only have a single question. So while we go ahead and read this and begin to answer it, if you have any other questions, maybe on anything that we've talked about, maybe what you'd like to, have a question that's off this immediate topic of what we talked about, but it could still be included. Maybe we'll talk about it next week if it's a little more in depth than just a general answer. But go ahead, and if there's anybody else out there that wants to ask any other questions, now's the time to do it. But we're going to go ahead and take a look. Go ahead,
Okay.
Eric.
So this is from Rick Bertoon. Suppose the pricing calculator suggests you should charge more for a shirt than the local market will bear. Well,
That means, in my opinion,
the
right off the
market
top of
is
my
soft.
head. Well, no, I'm gonna go beyond that. In my opinion, your overhead costs are too high,
okay.
right? Because that calculator is really designed to help you control your overhead cost, or not. When I say not really control, but become aware,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And so,
See where you can maybe
if
pinch
you
the
have
fat.
literally no overhead cost, and you're saying that you couldn't sell it for whatever the market would bear, then it could be your equipment. Maybe your equipment's way too slow. There's
a lot of factors.
There's a
that
lot
go
of
into that.
factors there.
Or the way you're marketing your your services.
Right.
I mean, if you're marketing to a flea market and expecting to get, Macy's
No.
pricing, you're not going to get it. But if it's just, and who is your market? What is your competition? Are you comparing DTG shop to DTG shop? Are you comparing wholesale to retail? Are you comparing a screen printing shop to a DTG shop? There's a lot of variables there that you have to take into consideration. I tell everybody, if there's a Mercedes-Benz dealership or there's a nice steakhouse in your town, you can sell shirts for a premium price.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that those companies would survive if there wasn't the demographics to support them.
Right.
And they would never have come into there. Not my whole Ponderosa and Ruth Chris scenario, but it's true. I mean, it's people will come to me at trade shows and be like, I can't get $20 a shirt. But there's a Mercedes dealership and a Bugatti dealership and 3 steakhouses, and I just don't know nobody will spend any money with me. Well, then you're not marketing it correctly, because there's obviously plenty of money to be had if there's able to support these other business models. So that's a tough one to actually.
Well, and I'll say something on top of that. But first, did we have any winners of the shirt?
I believe we did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go into that here in a minute. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, so what is your market? How much is your market going to bear? A lot of times, you don't know, right? And nothing against you, Rick. You're a nice guy.
Generalizing.
Right. But the reality is, a lot of times, you don't know what the market will bear because you just haven't been aware enough.
We didn't do a business plan.
Right. Yeah, you didn't do a business plan. But if you're just trying to sell someone's logo on a shirt versus your artwork on a shirt, that's a completely different market in itself.
Absolutely.
Right? So how do you know and dictate what will the market bear?
Right.
Well, a good test is to call around all your competition.
Absolutely. See what they're
and
selling.
say, hey, I want 10 shirts done with this and this and this, and see what it is. Because quite honestly, in screen printing, I could print a 3-color job and have a 10 shirt order, and I might charge, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, it's been so long, but I might charge, $8 a shirt, but I have now screen charges on top of that. I might have film charges or art fees depending on what's gone. So all of a sudden that $8 shirt is no longer $8.
Right.
That $8 shirt, actually I think I was probably more like 12,
Right.
plus screen charges, but that all of a sudden becomes a $20, $25 shirt. You just don't know. So what you need to do to try to determine what that market will bear is just take a general order of what you're getting.
Yeah,
right?
your typical
If it's
order.
one shirt, quite honestly, you got your own market. But if it's 6 shirts or whatever, just price it out. Now, if it's full color, you just say contact screen printers, because most of the time when people are in this industry, if you're not going to go into the screen printing realm and you're in the DTG realm, most of the time you're trying to compete with screen printers, right? Or vice versa. If you're in a DTG realm, and you're trying to do, vinyl, cutting or what have you, it's a different type of garment. Now the customer may not know, but they don't have a clue. But it's the quality of work, the longevity of print, and so forth. So I would just suggest what you do is, if you have a particular scenario you come across all the time, go ahead and call around to your competition and get a quote.
I was the most expensive shop in my town. I'm not giving anything away.
I was definitely not the least expensive. I wasn't the most, but I was definitely not the least.
I have a firm belief, this is a Zig Ziglar mindset, is that if you gain, and I've said this 1,000 times, if you gain your customer by your cost or your price, you will lose that customer on price. You have to gain customers through your service and quality of work. They'll pay what you want if the quality is there. Now, I mean, if you're in a demographic that the median household income is $10,000 a year, well, you're going to have a hard time selling a $50 T-shirt. I mean, if you're living in there's 500 people in your town, then yeah, okay, I understand that. But in a lot of situations, if you're in a major metropolitan area, you should be able to get whatever price you want. You just have to prove it that you're worth that price. And once you prove you're worth that price, your customers will come back and come back and come back. And it won't be about a price anymore, because they're able to then resell, or it's perceived value. Yeah. This mug costs the same amount of money as this coaster, but this mug has a better perceived value than the coaster does, because it's more usable. People see it better. There's that value is inherent to what you're doing, and it goes right along with your services as well. That you have to always take that into consideration. You can't sell $100 a T-shirt if your competition is selling it for $5 a T-shirt. But there's no reason why you can't sell it for $8 a T-shirt if they're selling for $5. If you're producing a better quality print, sell them on the better quality. So your job is to sell it. Your job is you're not only just printing shirts, you're the salesman, you're the marketer, you're the accountant, you're every aspect of the company as a business owner and entrepreneur. You have to handle A to Z, all of it. And you have to sell. You're not only selling the product, you're selling yourself and your services. And that is much more valuable to the consumer than just the price.
Right. And I think the biggest problem, Rick, that people have is they don't have the confidence in selling their product at a higher price.
They feel like they have to. The only way they can get sales is by dropping lower.
Now, if you're constantly losing jobs over and over and over and over again because your prices are way too high, then okay, maybe we need to reevaluate some things. But as Eric mentioned, he talked about quality, and I mentioned earlier that I would get people's artwork in, their logos and that kind of stuff, and I would redraw it because they would send me camera ready art through a fax machine. Yeah, through a fax machine, and it's crap, right? And I'm not joking.
On a thermal fax,
on a thermal fax, nonetheless. And so they would send me all kinds of crazy artwork, and it's camera ready, right? But most shops would just take that and print it.
Oh, wow.
And what I used to do was I would redraw everything. I didn't charge them. I didn't tell them I did it. I just did it.
Well,
and they always came to me and they said, I don't understand. Your quality of work is better than anywhere we've ever seen. And it had nothing to do with, it had to do with basically taking the time, spending the time, and now all of a sudden I'm gaining customers, repeat customers, who are spreading the word to other people and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. you're selling your name, and if you put crap out, they're gonna, regardless of if the customer gives you crappy artwork or not. If you can do anything to make yourself look better,
Right.
do it.
And I'm from originally Worcester, Ohio. And
Podunk, Ohio.
And what they used to tell me was, you're the best kept secret in Worcester. And I'm like, why do I have to be a secret?
Right.
Tell everybody.
They will
Now
never
that
do
was
that.
back before Facebook. That was back before stuff we'll talk about next week on the promotional side, promoting your business, that kind of stuff. But it was like, you're the best kept secret. And it's like, well, okay, I don't want to be a secret anymore.
I've learned over my years of business ownership, regardless of the business it is, that a customer will tell 5 people how bad you are and 1 person how good you are.
Yeah.
They bad news spreads like fire.
Unless you really take care of the customer. And
But a lot of
believe
times-
it or not, but a lot of times they like to keep it to themselves. 'cause
Absolutely, they don't want their competition to know. Exactly, they don't want to know where it's coming from.
But a lot of times, though, when you do really go above and beyond, they'll pass the word.
Yeah.
More than that ratio you mentioned
Yeah.
before, but that's probably normal anyway.
Yeah.
So, all right. Again, like I said, I knew we were going to run pretty long this session, but
It happens.
the T-shirt winner is
All
Dalton
right.
Tyson,
Nice job,
and
Dalton.
as I remember, I don't think he won this month. Nope. So Dalton, you're good. And
I know, and
next
he's good,
week,
yeah.
if you do it again, you
could
could
win
win
again.
for the next month.
So what do you
Again,
win?
All
You won,
winners are only 1 month. So what we won was you got a Teflon sheet, and you got probably I got to see. Probably 25 sheets of craft paper and 25 sheets of parchment paper.
That's
And that was, this is actually Narf from
Narf.
Pinky and the Brain,
Narf.
which is from Animaniacs. Now, I actually have one other thing here that,
oh no.
I gotta bend down here real quick. And I forgot to show you guys earlier. Look at that. I did actually catch a Demacho. Look at that. That is absolutely the real deal.
I quit.
This is a Demacho. Now, the Demacho was one of the guys here wanted to give this out as the prize. Now, Dalton, if you really want the Demacho, we will send you the Demacho. But this is the Demacho I caught. You saw me throw my Pokeball at it and everything. So, so anyway, yeah. If you want the Demacho, let us know, and we'll send you other stuff. But
Awesome.
again, just as a reminder to everybody, we thank you for watching all the time, and so part of this T-shirt contest is to give things out, but to also give you an opportunity to save a little extra money on supplies.
Absolutely.
And that kind of thing. So as always, we have a coupon for you. And this week's coupon is going to be Pinky.
Pinky.
Or Pinky in the Brain. And you're going to get 10% off of everything in our web store. If you go to our web store, BelQuette.com/store, and put whatever you want in the shopping cart, and upper right-hand corner, you're going to choose View Cart. And right in there is where you put your coupon code. And just go ahead and put it in. You'll get 10% off of everything in the web store. Also, it looks like Eric grabbed the Demacho. I don't know why.
Hey, I mean, it's me.
But so we got a Demacho. Like I said, Dalton, let us know. We got your address from past winnings, so we'll make sure we get this stuff out to you.
I swear we can put this in the store for BQLive, and I think we'd sell them.
That'd be good. Yeah, maybe if you have a suggestion on how much we should sell it for,
Yeah.
let us know. Oh, look, he wants it.
He wants it.
All right,
of
buddy.
course, Dalton.
We'll send it
Just so
to
you know, it is just a piece of paper with my face.
No, it isn't. That's a real dealership. I saw it. I caught it. It's live, bro. It's live.
Yeah.
All right, but anyway,
All right,
thanks
guys.
again. We
Thanks.
appreciate it. We're going to continue this discussion next week. Remember, every Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Rock.
That's when we have
Eastern
our,
time, guys.
Eastern time. We have our site or our show. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can always see past episodes there, as well as coming to our site, BQ.live. And like I said, this kind of stuff, the comparison tables, different things like that. We'll go ahead and try to put some of that information out
And
there for you.
just
for
to give a
easy
little teaser
access.
about next week, we're going to talk about like equipment, some marketing,
Right.
stuff like that's next week. So
Right.
just stay tuned for that kind of stuff. We haven't forgot about some of the other bigger factors, but this is, again, like we said, this is the basis
Right.
to start. Next week, we'll go into more of the fun stuff.
Right. And if you have any questions or anything, send an email to info@bq.live. And I apologize. I actually have to say there was somebody who did send us one, and I haven't had a chance to respond yet because I was so busy today. and last night. So
Oh, it's
I'll
a
get to
recent
you.
though.
Yeah, it was just
Oh,
yesterday,
oh, okay.
and so I'll get that answered for you here. But again, if there's any suggestions or anything, shoot us an email at info@bq.live. And again, as always, subscribe. You can subscribe to newsletters. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, that kind of thing.
Yeah, please share our videos and let
Yep.
everybody else know about them. We appreciate it.
All right.
Awesome.
And once again, thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, see you now.